doing, Carrie. We're all across the country, different schools. Last week I did one with a homeschool kids asking questions. They wanted to know how gravity works. Talked about how
I bet you're really good. I bet kids love you.
Well, it's
okay. God, I know we're live now. We're actually going live right now. It's crazy. Hello, everyone. I'm actually. This is kind of crazy. Let me see if I got. Okay, we're supposed to be looking at the desktop. I think we are. Okay. Just hold on 1 second. I need my other computer. You're so crazy. You have me distracted.
Look at that cat. Jesus.
Yeah, this is my Norwegian forest cat. My Norwegian forest lion, and he's actually, he wants to be on the radio, so he always cries and makes all kind of noise. People think I don't feed him. I feed him. He's too fat. As a matter of fact, he's actually overweight.
He's like a Cheshire. Sit there with that smile and nothing else. So, yeah, put him on a white rug and have him smile. That ought to do it.
Yeah, no, he's all good. So just, I don't know if people are hearing this. It's crazy. You're not supposed to start a show like this, Richard.
I really appreciated you when you came to the Reno thing. That was very neat to meet you that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was fun. We had a good time there.
Yeah.
Other than the time when they actually went after us that day.
Wasn't that, you mean at the ground?
Yeah.
That was the strangest experience.
It was, actually.
Talking about that, because the missing time? That's really kind of crazy. I'm not kidding. We had to show up at Sundance Bookstore or something like that, and I had to drive through traffic, hallucinating like crazy when I came out of that building.
Well, there you go. Yeah, something strange was going on during that interview, no doubt about it. For what it's worth, for people that are listening.
You like conspiracy and the creepy part of it.
Oh yeah.
You throw your hair and you throw your hair back like that. You do it. Thing like that. Yes, just like that.
Yeah.
That's Carrie Cassidy.
No, it's like, my attitude is make my day. That's it. That's my attitude. All right. So, okay, we have the megast and all megases in the good way. With us tonight, Richard Allen Miller. This is Carrie Cassidy. We're not supposed to start an interview quite so crazily, but hopefully you guys can hear us. And I think it looks like from the chat that we've got people listening, so that's all good. I have your bio on the screen for the people that it says you're born in 1944. Is that actually true?
Yeah, I was born in 44. I'm a Pisces.
Okay, now
if I had been born 2 hours later, my name would have been Patrick Aloysius. I was born on the 16th, just before St. Patrick's Day.
Why would you be called Patrick?
St. Patrick's Day, March 17th.
No, I know, but is that because you're what do you call it? Would that be your parents that would be?
Yeah, English. I have real strong English and Irish background, Scottish.
Oh, yeah?
Mason. I'm a fifth generation Mason on the Nelson line. So I'm directly related to Lord Nelson.
Right, you have the pedigree to go with the chops.
I have the typo negative blood.
Yeah, it figures. I can tell that. Actually, I can tell that by looking at you. To be honest, Richard.
Yeah. I got that reptilian or that crazy thing I do with my tongue.
Well, actually, Bill Ryan has that blood. I know what that blood looks like when I see someone. Yeah, yeah. So the Illuminati love you.
Oh, the Illuminati love me. I don't think so. I'm not gay, and that's where they hang out. Let me tell you.
Well, that's true. That's true. But still, they respect your bloodline, though. Keep that in mind. So they won't kill you. They won't kill you. Do you know that? They won't kill you. No, they won't kill you. So they'll mess with you, which they've definitely done, but they won't kill you.
Is that comforting?
No, for what it's worth, just.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. I needed that. I'm not kidding. It's been a very strange 2 months. This last 2 months.
Okay, well,
Hey,
this is your show. Richard Allen Miller and I go way back, so this is why we're so crazy here, and we're going to let anything fly. We're going to be talking about everything under the sun. I'm going to rake him over the coals. He's going to like it.
I heard so.
No, we really, we'll drill down because look, you're out on the circuit. You're talking to everyone and their brother, right? But you had a weird experience on Jimmy Church. So let's start with that because
well, I don't know. We had, when I was doing Jimmy Church, we had over 2,000 tweets. And yet...
Huge audience.
What's that?
You had a huge audience.
I don't know how big the audience was. What happened was I only sold one book. And, when I did George Norrie, I did like at 400. When I did John Wells, I did like 4,000. And when I did 4,000,
Yeah.
And so to sell one book, we went to Amazon to see if there was something wrong or broken or, whatever.
Right.
Because I have a lot of books. It isn't just like just selling one book. How does that work? And literally...
Yes. Yeah. No, and they probably...
He's a good interviewer. He's not... I like John Wells. And you. I like both of you.
You better say you like
and
me.
Mel Fabregas. No. I have a couple favorites. They're different.
Yeah.
But
well, Jimmy enjoyed you. I think it was the first time for Jimmy to come across somebody quite like you. I think you really pushed the envelope for them because I listened to the interview and I think you did a lovely job. And kudos to you. I think you you come across as like you're this wild man, but you're actually quite sensitive, and I like watching you operate. No, really, because you seem like you're not paying attention. So you seem like you're off on your tangent, but you pay attention to the energetics around you, and so you work off that.
Yeah, that's internal landscape. That's EQ. That's even more important than IQ is EQ.
Yes.
That internal landscape and being sensitive. We're all empaths. If you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you definitely have that down, and I admire that, and I think you handled yourself very well on there, because you really sense out your audience, right? You do. No, you do.
Done that. The one book sale might have been a warning.
No, okay, we're going to try to help you tonight with that. So what is the situation? Where do people go to buy your books to make sure that you get the money? Because we want to tell people that Richard Allen Miller has been hit. They stole everything he has as far as his writings. They wiped his computers, and he is trying to make it back. He's got limited funds. He's a lovely man, and he's just trying to stay alive here by telling the truth. So if people are listening to this, when it goes out over YouTube tomorrow, when I get it uploaded, we're going to expand the audience that way as well. So this is an important moment. So tell us and tell the audience.
Yeah, okay, well, you can get my books almost anywhere, but my official website, where you get them from me, and I autograph and sign them, is oak-publishing.com. And Oak is an old artifact from my military days. It was a think tank I put together for Boeing and Battelle, and back in 1970, 69. And now it's called the Organization for the Advancement of Knowledge, Oak Publishing, and oak-publishing.com. And basically, I turned it over to my lectures, writing, and research. I had Northwest Botanicals, and I was farming. Mostly for the last 35 years, I've been a dirt farmer and working in the woods.
And collecting pine cones. I love that story. That was so brilliant, Well,
120 truckloads a year.
Yeah.
3-foot high boys. It kept a lot of people employed out in the woods, supplementing incomes. We do mushrooms and fir boughs, but the pine cones worked pretty good. Well, we sold big ones to Bear Creek, and they'll dip them in peanut butter and then put birdseed on them, bird feeder.
Really?
Yeah. The birds like peanuts. And it'll stick to seed, birdseed.
Really?
Yeah, and the cone won't rot, so it'll hang there for a couple of years.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. You're full of surprises, as always. Okay. Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do with you tonight, first of all, I'm going to read this bio I've got for you. So I'm going to switch over here. So he says he's a physicist, biophysicist, herbologist. Born in 1944, author and researcher Richard Allen Miller reveals a wealth of depth and knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture, New Age physics, and metaphysics. He began working in the X-Files world around the 1960s, has had amazing experiences and conclusions to share. Boy, that's been really sort of tailored and wiped, right? You know, this is
my ex-wife, Iona, wrote that.
Yeah. Okay, she was massaging. This is how you massage a magician's resume. Okay, so an original team member, Men in Black. Miller's research is in the field of parapsychology, paraphysics, and began as a graduate physicist working 11 years with Navy Intel. He's back with Navy Intel, by the way, guys, offering fresh perspectives on metaphysical traditions in his books, papers, and articles, which include The Modern Alchemist, ESP induction through forms of self-hypnosis, a holographic concept of reality, and many, many more books. And he has 10 books sitting to be published, 10 more books, right?
Yeah, those are the ones that got wiped off my computer. I have reconstructed 9 of them from different people. Dr. Lenny Time is doing the Marshall Papers, which was on Buckminster Fuller and stuff like that. The one
awesome.
I lost.
I want to read that one. I've been a huge fan of Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, Bob Marshall was the idiot savant that Buckminster Fuller hired to do the geodesic dome concepts in the vector equilibrium matrix.
Cool.
There was a standing thing. Riemann, Dr. Riemann, about 100 years ago, challenged the mathematical community to come up with a mathematical expression for recurring primes. Nobody's done that, okay? And Bob Marshall did it in 2 days by visualizing a 3-dimensional cone with a certain pitch to it, and then did numbers around it with a different pitch around it, and was able to draw a straight line to it. He did it.
Okay, but what is the significance of recurring primes? I mean, what is that, time travel?
No, primes in base 10 is your 1.
I know what a prime number is. What I'm asking you is what's the significance of it?
Primes.
If it's a recurring prime, what does it mean? What does it give us?
It's not divisible by anything but itself.
Okay, and so what does that mean?
In a base 10 system, it has to do with the way logarithms work. I'm not the mathematician that responded to Riemann.
Okay. All right.
It was Bob Marshall that did that. He was the one that was the genius that did that. But that's part of the book, is how he evolved the vector equilibrium matrix, which is basically a triangle with a center that is mathematically not possible. In other words, it is an event horizon situation. That's what makes the vector equilibrium matrix, makes the buckyball as strong as it is. Did you know that a buckyball is actually the structure of C60 carbon is maybe 100 times stronger than diamond? And that's what they're making now, are nanotubes. Yes. Eventually, that one article I wrote with your logo on it, Cassidy interview from last year on Fukushima, they're going to make an elevator into space using nanotubes, using carbon.
Actually, I heard they already did, and it leaves from somewhere in Germany.
Of course it does. I like that Stargate myth myself better. Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too. Okay,
but that's an Air Force, and I sent you that document.
Yeah, teleportation. Okay, now everyone, I don't know if my website's working properly. It's been really aggravating me lately, but the thing is that I put out an article. There's a teleportation document that you sent me. Rick sent me a bunch of documents right before we went here on the air, and so it's on my website if you want to download it, if the article is on the front page. But if the article didn't make it to the front page yet, it'll be there soon because it's been uploaded. It's just not showing up. Some weird thing.
That document gives the math on how it works. What they're doing right now is they're able to teleport a light beam from one point over here to one point over here, and without having to go through space. And they show the math on that in the document. It's an Air Force document. It's been declassified. And what they're doing is using that to ignite new kinds of weapons.
Really?
They teleport, a laser beam. If you put a laser light inside a buckyball, what would happen? It would laze by ricocheting off the wall.
That's what I was going to say. It's going to bounce off all the surfaces. And then what happens? Does it destroy itself?
A especially at the center of that buckyball.
Does it go interdimensional?
No. It's a
No.
laser beam in physical dimension that take place inside.
I know, but if it's gonna bounce off all the surfaces, eventually it's gonna hit itself, won't it?
Oh, it ricochets into the center and it causes the center to laze. There is on the internet, if you look up the National Ignition Facility in Livermore, you'll get a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger looking at the target they're going to do. And the target will be deuterium. In fact...
What is deuterium? I don't even know.
Heavy water.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
an isotope of water. There's water, and then there's deuterium and tritium. Those are the two isotopes.
It's not water 3.0. It's not that, is it?
No.
It's
water,
different.
Okay, let's talk about water for a second. Water has two forms. It's ortho and para. These are levorotary. One goes in that direction, the other goes in that direction. Now, this one is more prevalent, so there's three of these, so one of these in nature usually. Okay, para and ortho. Now, that's water. That's H2O. Then you have Carey Reams that takes three water molecules, puts them together, and it becomes H7O9 with a free radical ion. It's a water cluster. It's a grouping of water. Then you have hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. Then you have exclusion zone water, which is bringing a third hydrogen molecule in, so it becomes H3O2. And it bends the structure so that exclusion zone water acts like a register, very similar to gallium arsenide, when we make computer chips and we talk about, I don't know.
So it has memory. It has memory.
Yes.
Yes.
It stores memory. Only water is possibly 1 million times, that's 6 zeros, more efficient than our current systems of computer chips. And I'm predicting that water will eventually become our new computer form.
Well, you know what? That's because I say we are the living library of humanity, and so that we contain that water. You know that we contain water H3O.
Yes, we H2O and H3O2.
H3O2. Yes.
That's exclusion zone. Now, you can get that exclusion zone water by praying over it like the Catholics do. And I understand you can kill vampires with it.
And Masaru Emoto also did, he did all his water experiments and showed.
The intentionality experiment.
Yes.
We'll talk about intention to be distinguished from intentionality later, if you'd like, having to do with the Stanford argument, where intention is what you end up doing at that moment, and intentionality is Maxwell Smart saying, missed it by that much. You don't do it. It is something that doesn't happen. And that is called the Stanford argument on the distinction of what is and what is not. Intent and intentionality. And intent has to do with your thought form. And it's changing your internal landscape and making your health. The water is structured up against your organs. If you're thinking that the glass is half full, you're healthy. If you see it as half empty, like you've lost something, it's half empty. There's a third glass over there, and it's yellow liquid, and you can say that one's full of piss. The metaphor, yeah. I'll give you that little picture. That's a nice little one.
Oh, yeah. Well,
thanks. That has
thanks.
to do with the importance of the thoughts that you choose to entertain. You have a tremendous responsibility for this, and it affects everything around you, including your health.
Okay, and this is actually a great jumping off point, because I wanted to go back with you to
I'll bet.
No, I mean, there is a certain place in your life that's a very interesting place, and I really don't think we've really gotten the story there.
You're that's the beating me up part.
Well, no. People really want to know what makes you tick, I'm sure, and you're not going to distract me, Richard. And so, basically, what I want to say is, we know that you at some point broke away from black projects, all right? And you decided to become a dirt farmer, as you call it. No, whatever you want to, how are you going to slice it? And this has got to be the reason. Come on, because it's all intentionality, right? At a certain point, you made a change in your trajectory. You had to know you were going down a certain road, and you changed. And you must have started I imagine, being the bad boy that you are, you probably started, imploding. Sort of, you must have started destroying some of the things you were doing.
Well, acid helped. Remember, those were the
Okay, all right.
And we were all, free love. But it was, I wanted to be more sovereign. Now, that's what I've just created, a series of Hollywood specials that are going to talk about sovereignty and how to get off the grid, how to become more independent, by starting small steps in gardening and getting to know your neighbors next door. These are going to be the people that are going to save your life when this grid does go down. That's how it's going to work. And the big one I tried to stress when 4 years ago is water. Water is what is going to make everybody have to go to FEMA. If you don't have your water together and the power's out for 3 days, where do you get your water?
Okay. All right. And again, for people listening, this is like also Matt Stein we did a whole workshop with you and Matt Stein in up in Northern California. And that was really all about that. So Richard Allen Miller sort of laid the groundwork on a mental level, and Matt Stein covers the physicality of sort of preparing for the future in a positive way.
What generator do you want to have, and what kind of matches do you want to pack around in your go bag, that kind of thing.
Okay, but to get back to my discussion here.
Okay, so I wanted to be more sovereign. I wanted to be a mountaineer. I wanted to live in the woods and grow my own food, have a little herb farm out there, and pretty much drop off radar.
But you succeeded. Am I right?
For 35 years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then they came knocking on your door again.
Well, just recently. That was back in 2001. I was asked to a rave in Sisters, Oregon. It was 2001, and Clark Heinrich was there. He is making Amanita muscaria, and he's boiling it in a big pot.
What's that? What is that? What are you talking about?
Amanita muscaria soma, the divine mushroom that Gordon Watson, CIA guy. And they're putting this Pope's cradle where they paint their forehead, their head, bald head, with Amanita muscaria.
Why?
Like the popes used to, and then they talk to God.
Oh, yeah? Does it work?
Yeah. Crystal method was there. Actually, Amanita muscaria has muscimol and muscarine, and they go in opposite directions, and so you're kind of two-faced, kind of like in Batman. Harvey Dent, you're kind of in two minds of something.
Okay, I call you the Timothy Leary of Black Projects. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Why?
Why?
Oh, you mean because of ketamine and the work we did?
Well, because you definitely know all these substances and what they do with.
Well, I'm an alchemist. Get a grip, man.
Well, there you are.
Mushrooms. What I did is the book, The Magical and Ritual Use of Herbs, which was formerly known as Legal Highs.
There you go.
That's what I did. What I did is I signed rituals to them, which then afforded them to have a pass on the Uniform Controlled Substance Act. There were 28 herbs they couldn't regulate. They're doing it now with ephedra because it makes Mormon tea, pseudoephedrine hydrochloride, so they can make methamphetamine. But kola nut and BR Cerone from sweet flag, psilocybin from psilocybin mushroom, muscimol, muscarine. We were doing things with datura, which was, at that time, it was called telepathine. Today, we call it dimethyltryptamine. And in New Scrolls, they call it ayahuasca, which is, Daime Church and, those kinds of things. Now, each of these chemistries act as they're neurotransmitter lookalikes. They're similar to the neurotransmitters we have. And so when you take them, of course, the body freaks out. If you take lysergic acid diethylamide, the LSD, it's a toxin. And it's probably broken down and in the urine within 20 minutes of ingestion. And then the next 20 hours of response, hallucinations, whatever, is basically your body's own brain chemistry in response. And what that is like kickstarting your brain into producing that one. Now, lysergic acid amide is the neurotransmitter that connects dots. That's the one that's associated to imagination, where you go, when you go, you see how something connects. That's LSD going on in your brain, micro,
yes.
But in your brain. And what you do is try to generate that. Like dimethyltryptamine in your brain is that chill that goes up and down your spine when you go, ugh.
Yes.
And everybody can do that, which means
well, in fact, we not just can do it, but we do it. And when we recognize truth, and when people make a very special connection, you know, oftentimes they'll say, I'm getting chills by you saying what you're saying. That kind of, have you ever heard people saying that?
Now that chill, that's Rick Strassman, you know, the God brain. He says that's the chemistry that the brain creates God. Now, it might be more appropriate to say that's the way God communicates to us. What that dimethyltryptamine does in the brain is it gives us a sense of something more than us.
Okay, but I would also say that that's the Kundalini being stimulated.
That is Kundalini. Kundalini is that electromagnetic field going up and down your spine, little philia sticking out of the spine, and the signal that goes up and down is actually in the visible light region. And right in the back of the head is the occipital region, or our cerebral cortex, a pineal gland, which is light sensitive. Mm-hmm. And so if you do your body straight and you do the chill, you can actually stimulate the pineal gland.
Yes.
That sets up a standing wave across the neural cavity. Mm-hmm. And guess what happens next is you actually generate true nerve tissue. That's one of the ways for rejuvenation of nerve tissue in your body.
And this is how we also are affecting our DNA.
Yes.
Yes, we're changing it.
I'm not even sure what junk DNA is. I think it's something way more that we haven't even gotten into yet.
That's right.
Because we're now discovering codes within the DNA that are holographic. In other words, there's layers of coding.
Yes.
Just like there is in water.
Yeah, or in Hebrew lettering.
But see, water is the smallest substance we know because it's...
Come on, do you know Stan Tannen's work at all?
Yeah.
Yeah?
And Procter & Gamble and the Meru Project, yes. They contacted me when Iona and I were writing the Diamond Body. They used our material in that because that all came from Buckminster Fuller.
Really?
Remember, that was the N equals 50, V equals 6. There's your occult thing. And the structure of the vector equal the VEM, VEM, vector equilibrium.
Okay, so but did you know Buckminster Fuller?
Yeah, we were. He hired Iona and I to interpret Bob Marshall. Nobody can understand him. He was this idiot savant out of Fort Bragg that was brilliant. He was brilliant. I mean, he was like, I've never met anything like it.
Okay, but you're pretty damn brilliant yourself, so that's saying something.
Not like this. Bob Marshall was an idiot savant. I'm just a functioning one. I'm not an idiot. I'm a functioning one. That means I can get along. But Bob's vision on it was so incredible, but nobody can understand him. And so that's what we did, and that's what led to, oh, Jesus, a whole shitload of things like Diamond Body, Electromagic, and Yogatronics. 3 books that are not yet published on video feedback systems. Using light and sound now, Stan Tenen stuff. Using light and sound, I can recreate any drug experience you've had. Just using light and sound.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's the way you gate your eyes and audio, the way you gate it. Sampling.
Well, I mean, maybe you should make movies.
You mean like with the Grateful Dead, and we'll call it retina light circuit. Yeah, there we go. We'll call it retina light circuit.
Well, I mean, you know, something where everyone can participate. Okay, no, but I want to get back to my question. So you're at this juncture where you're basically wanting sovereignty or whatever you want to call it.
I want to live in the woods. It isn't that I wanted to be a mountain man, but I wanted to be independent of everything. I wanted to have my own water and food and things together so that it was me surviving me.
I know, but I want to know what happened, like, to you during that time. Did they just say, okay, fine, see you later, it's fine with us?
No. I had to go to Seattle once a week and do reports and do things like that at the end.
When you mean do reports, what kind of reports?
Okay, I did one with the Department of Interior out of Menlo Park on earthquake hazards, doing with cosmobiology and the planet Uranus, the Earth, and the Sun being in certain geometric alignment. There was a 3 sigma error coefficient. I did the 360 computer verification by going back into history to confirm earthquakes.
You did. Where is that paper? Is that even classified? Is that classified?
That will be in a new book. I'll send you one on bioluminescence that I did between holographic and embryonic. I'll send you that right now. That paper is part of a new book I'm doing called Spook Central.
I know.
The work I did for MRU. It'll be
all right.
Here, I'll send you that right now. That's a cool paper. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll do that while you're
okay. But was this considered a form of rebellion by the military?
No. Back in the 70s, I see what you're trying to do. No, back in the 70s, it was still blue sky.
What does that mean?
That means that they had no idea where the research was going. Go for it. We'll see where it takes us. Usually it was down a dead hole. But every once in a while we'd find something. It wasn't until the 80s, when I got out of it, that it had to, all research that was funded had to do with application. It had to either be something that they could use immediately in marketing and they weren't interested. It was like as if there was no intent ever again. I'm just about here, so I need to put my glasses on for one moment. I'm that blind. Okay, and there it comes. Now that's one of the chapters in my new book, Spook Central.
All right, thank you.
And you can publish that one if you want to, just to give everybody a taste.
All right, all right.
There. Now,
okay, that's great. Okay.
It was as if in the 80s there was no intent to advance man in sciences. In the 70s, it was clear sailing. If I wanted to do something, they would open the door and the funds would be there and the toys, and I would go do what I did. And in the 80s, it either had to have marketing, like the difference between astral projection and remote viewing. Targ was in the 80s. He says he's in the 70s. I ran SRI at Stanford under Puharich for years. And then
wait. You ran SRI for years.
I didn't run it. I did projects out of there. I used their laboratories.
Oh, okay. All right, but you
some of their laboratories.
Okay.
Like Geller. Yeah, Geller was one of the things I did.
What do you mean Geller was one of the things you did?
Yeah.
You brought him in? You brought him in?
Huh?
You brought him in to do experiments? What do you mean Geller was?
Oh, Uri Geller. No. Puharich had discovered this psychic.
Right.
And we had one in Seattle. It was called Keith Milton Reinhardt. He was out of the Aquarian Foundation. He was the real deal. And there are very few of these kinds of people. And when we find someone like that, boy, you don't think we want to study them and figure out what makes them different. And okay, so Uri Geller was the real deal. He could bend spoons and software.
Yeah, I have tried to interview him, but he's very elusive.
Started hanging out with a bunch of wealthy women that wanted him to perform, and will you break my watch, please? You know, one of those kind of things. And he started to cheat. And that's when I caught him. And so it discredited all of that research, even though there was validity to it.
Oh, there's absolute validity to it.
What's that?
I said there's validity to it. There's absolute validity to it.
When you have someone cheating, and then you have data, did it cheat then, or was that the real deal? And say, like Kalugina, we busted Kalugina, you know, that Russian that could put her hands on the table, you know, and she'd move objects around, go, and then the object would start moving. She had a magnet underneath the table. I mean, you know, just stupid stuff. However, I saw Sherpas walk up Mount Rainier barefoot, and I've seen Indians up in Mount Vernon, Red Feather Shaman, walk on fire. And when I tell you what we did is we wired that guy up. This will be another one in the book. And we found that certain parts of the body were radiating heat, like a superconductor. Like it's a state of consciousness where cell salts can move heat transfer in the body, and there's no scarring on the foot. Yeah. And I saw it. I saw that. And how does that work? We're now believing today, 50 years later, 40 years later, probably something to do with structured water and belief systems and the way you... I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it.
Okay, well, maybe so. Although, you know, that's a bit suspect. because I got to say that there are things happen to people that they don't believe, don't know they believe, don't think they believe.
Yeah, schisms. Yeah,
and
schisms.
how do you account for it? And there's a lot of things happening around people right now that they're in denial about, and yet those things are definitely happening.
That's right. That is when the collective unconscious starts to break through someone's personal reality. That's the voice of coyote and voice of reason, that place of outside the box, and you don't know how to assimilate the event. When I came out of that hotel with you, I had no idea what had happened. I mean, we were all hallucinating. It was crazy.
Yeah, no. Well, for one thing, it's you and me. We created a consciousness field that threw the whole plan, their whole plan off, and things were colliding, and people were going crazy.
Man, it was a real strange evening. I tell you that. And I remember the missing time, so there it was. And it happened to all of us. There were a bunch of us that witnessed it. So I don't know. Maybe there was some microtoxins in the air ducts up at 14.
Yeah, that's the way you called it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, no. Well, that's not unusual. I mean, things do get weird when we're doing what we do. Here, I just want to make sure that the people are listening. So, can everyone hear us? Okay, I guess you guys can hear, right? I guess you're all there. So I have this other. See, I monitor what we're doing on another computer, because that way they don't interfere with each other. So I'm able to see the actual channel over there. Anyway, so basically, though, on sort of a I don't know, psychological level or whatever, did your trajectory, you're talking about your personal trajectory, what you wanted to do, but was there some point at which you had joined, kind of, you worked for these guys, you worked for them for a long time? What would you say, 20 years, whatever?
I was 11 years. 11 years. It was 69. It started in 68, actually, to 79. Yeah, 68 to 79. And I did work a little into the 80 and 81, but those were minor things. And then in 2001, when I went to that rave, that's the first scientific paper I wrote again on synthetic telepathy. And you have that paper, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that's the paper I wrote on synthetic telepathy. And now that's about targeted individuals. And let me say something about the schisms that we're talking about. I'm noticing when Mac was interested in studying alien abductions, his orientation was that he was probably not going to be able to validate God, but what he could do is address the trauma. And there is a group trauma where a group of individuals are experiencing schisms and have trauma from it. They don't know how to assimilate it. And now I'm noticing that these are happening in a variety of different areas, including targeted individuals and other kinds of phenomena like that. Now, there is a thing, there's a collider in Africa called the Chanty Project. And it made contact, I don't know if you heard that, but somehow they made contact with an alternate universe.
Yes.
Okay. The Chanty Project, and you can put that up. Well, what that might mean is that there's a collision going on a metaphysical level of universes that are colliding and going through each other. And they're not on the same plane, and certain people have sensitivities like animals do and see things that other people don't, ghosts, apparitions, things of that nature. And sometimes it's a mass hysteria. Dr. John Curtis Gowan, in my Power Tools book, I do the ontology of mystical states where he tries to categorize the different relationships we have to it, dreams, myths, and things. And then we get into more conscious states of relationship to what's going on. And this has to do with the fact that I don't think there's a war going on the physical plane. I think it's going on all planes. And we're being attacked on a spiritual level and an archetypal level.
Yes.
Man.
Okay, well, come on. You're a Magus. You've dealt with dark entities, and I want to go down that road with you too. So,
could it be? Say. I know. I love Saturday Night Live, man. It's so lovely. Yeah.
No, okay. So no, but to get back to this, first of all, this thing, hysteria. I mean, this is like it's kind of a double speak for basically saying you imagined it. it's not real.
Imagination is reality. Okay, right out of the gate. So when you imagine something, even if you don't believe it's true, you've already put your dime into the nickel sign. I mean, there it is. You're already bought into the thing.
Right.
And so you're the mass part is that it's like being born with a hereditary illness. You didn't buy up into it. It just happened, kind of thing, and it happens to certain individuals, not because they're hanging out with certain kinds of drug addicts or certain kinds of porno or whatever. What's happening is it happens indiscriminately, like an alien abduction, where there's some person up in Alaska that's having a very normal life, and all of a sudden, out of the box she is, trying to assimilate what's going on with, she's under a lamp with all these weird things going on around her.
Okay, but you're actually, I mean, you're a guy who we just before the show, we were just talking about, you don't even acknowledge that aliens exist. Is that right?
How could they not? That's the way I would say.
Okay, but you haven't met one. Come on, they didn't introduce you to any.
I have had close encounters.
You had a strange box. You had a strange box appear in a room, right?
A box.
That metal box you were talking about.
And a little green, blue entity. Yeah, something happened. I don't know what that was. When they found me, I was unconscious with 5 bookshelves, big, tall bookshelves, had fallen over, books everywhere, as if I had been in a seizure.
Uh-huh.
Now, what my experience was is a real insidious alien. I don't know what happened, and I wasn't on drugs. So it wasn't like that. It happened. But what they were doing was, the thing was, they couldn't understand how humans could exist as a life form when the difference between normal and psychotic could be measured in micrograms. And what they did to me was they chainsawed my foot off. And they didn't do it physically. That's what it felt like. First, the foot came off, then part of the leg, and they went up the down to see what level of pain I could endure before I passed out. And that was my imagination. That was the experience of what I experienced.
All right. Well, okay, but that could have been
little green.
Look,
blue.
we call that a possible screen memory. You understand what I mean? A screen memory.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
You don't?
Uh-uh.
Come on, you got to get up to speed. We need your help. Come on. No, you should get up to speed on this stuff because this is.
Yeah, that's what you're here for. Yeah, well.
No, really. A screen memory. It's basically what the Greys implant in your mind so that you have this other memory that it takes, it's sort of similar to when you dream and you take things like if somebody's mowing a lawn, you put that into your dream, and in your dream it becomes something else.
What that is a I did that in the laboratory. We did a neurologic shunt where I could bring dream time closer to consciousness, because consciousness is not where you create reality. It's actually in dream time, it's brain state. And what you're trying to do is use a neurologic shunt where you can bring the dream time closer to the consciousness so that consciousness can direct the thought form. That's a magic thing. It's the way that works.
Yeah.
And there's toys, brain drivers, things like that will enhance that ability to bring dream time closer. Lucid dreaming studies and the practice of trying to control your dreams is a first step in that area of taking charge of changing the movie.
Okay, but in terms of doing just that, so I'm with you. You're in this place. Was this a military facility where this happened?
Yes. Oh, where the event happened? No. It was in my office in 1987.
So it's
in my office.
Okay, so it's after your military experience.
Yeah.
Really?
I had just read and met Whitley Strieber. He had written that book,
Communion.
Big 12 or something like that.
Communion.
Communion.
Yes.
And I had met him, and then I started seeing aliens everywhere after I read that book. That's how it works. I'm looking up in the sky. You know how you can tell if it's a UFO? Is that when you look at something, it comes straight at you. And if you look away, it jogs. It doesn't move in a straight line.
Yeah,
it's like
that's right.
Jumping.
Sure.
And that's how you know when you're looking at a UFO.
Okay, and when that's one of the ways, Let me tell you, there's many ways, but
well, that's what I discovered on my little journey when I didn't know anything, because my work, we knew about aliens back in the 70s, but really the emphasis was on what the Russians were doing. They were, they had psychotronic weapons and all kinds of shit. Yep. They were coming out of Bulgaria. Bulgaria was a bunch of thugs, but Czechoslovakia had some exceptional scientists, and Rajek and some others came out of Czech. Russia itself was more superstitious. They weren't like the solid sciences you think they are of them today. They were more hysterical. They wanted to believe, and they were off into everything. And the really good sciences was out, Prague, where Czechoslovakia.
Okay, but bottom line, you're saying you were a consultant to the X-Files at a certain point in your trajectory.
Oh, that was the workups we did. Yes.
Okay, but what year was that?
We started in what's his name? 82, 83.
82. So again, after your military experience.
Yeah. Then we were doing workups for Hollywood. I wrote one called "The Magical Child" with Iona. That was about the last days of man on Earth, with a light entity known as Ion. It's a magical child. It started in chapter 1. It started in the Temple of Ishtar in 2257 BC. And in the middle of the chapter, it jumps to the Agbe Lodge of North Hollywood, sex magic ritual. Same people, a child's created. And it isn't until the third chapter you realize it's not human. It's a homo lumen. And that was based on Dr. Charlotte Bach's work out of the Warburg. She wrote her doctoral thesis, was called Homo Mutant, Homo Lumen. And it was about the next evolutionary stages. This is before Kurzweil and all that.
Really? Okay, yeah. Well, can you get a hold of her work?
Dr. Charlotte Bach, Warburg, did her doctoral there. It's called Homo Mutant, Homo Lumen.
No, but I'm saying, is she still alive?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a long time ago.
She sounds like an interesting person.
Who's in Jungian Institute at the Warburg?
Well, Warburg, come on. We're talking funding Nazis, Hitler.
No.
Well, that's the same family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Museum.
That's a very notorious last name. Okay. But at some point, you also worked with Lilly. When did the work with Lilly come in?
That was the project with Carl Sagan. Sagan believed that the dolphin clicks and whistles was a language. And I was really good with math and languages. And so I was brought in for about 10 days. It was about 10 days.
What year?
71. 72.
Okay, so you're still involved in the military project, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is part of the military project?
Working its own.
Sorry?
Occult was that think tank that we had for Battelle and Douglas United Nuclear and Boeing. And Argonne was part of it. So was SRI and China Lake. I had Boeing Scientific Research Laboratories out of South Park. That was before the Space Center. And what we were doing is all kinds of different projects. I had, at any given moment, as many as 200 individuals on different projects working in different studies, that we did. Like that bioluminescence paper. You'll see that.
Right.
That led to MRIs.
Okay, well, let me ask you something kind of like outside the box here. Flight 370, do you understand stealth technology and what they actually did with that plane? Because you and I were talking about this what's it called? Fluorescence, fluorines or whatever.
Fullerenes.
Fullerenes.
Was it?
Were they working with fullerenes on that plane?
I don't know. That would be how you couldn't find any wreckage. I think.
What do you mean find any wreckage? Maybe it just went interdimensional.
No, I think they melted it with a very super hot plasma on a physical plane. I think that would be the way it was done. It might have an interdimensional metaphor, okay, but in fact, what they're doing is, I think the first deployment was in 2001 on 9/11. When Building 7 came down, that was quite obviously demolition. And if you look at where it fell, there's a big slag. Thermite doesn't do that. And so it was a demolition with something new. And what it was, we're guessing now, is that they take 60 carbon atoms and they form a buckyball. It's a closed system like a Dyson sphere. And that is about 1.2 nanometers wide, and you can put up to 23 water molecules inside and trap it. So push them in there, deuterium. Now, because it's a buckyball, it has these surfaces. And so the laser light that would hit it reflects down into the center, hits the deuterium, reflects off a different wall, and it goes back and forth,
right.
And the whole thing lasers and goes supercritical. And the fullerene structure will be the only thing that can contain that kind of energy. A diamond couldn't even do it.
Well, when you say, what's a fluorine structure? What is that?
It's 60 carbon atoms. There's actually a group of fullerenes. There's C70, C120. What they are is 60 carbon atoms that when they bond together, they form a soccer ball, is what it looks like. It looks like a soccer ball, exactly. And if you have...
So it has to be made in a lab. So how do they? But I mean, how do they make it explode or whatever it is?
Okay, well we're getting there. It's a very strong structure. It forms carbon nanotubes. And the last article I sent you, the Cassidy 9, okay, will give you a nice little rundown of how they build them up in and how they put layers of them so it becomes super strong. Now, if you put water inside that and you laser it, it will go fusion, just like the dolphin did it. This was work that was done by Mark Leclerc at MIT, and they call it a cavitation process. Now, let me explain what cavitation is for a minute. You have a pool of water, and down comes a drop, boom, and when it hits the water, it causes a rippling out, and there's a rippling in, and when the water ripples in, it creates a bubble of water with air inside it. That's called a cavitation, like when a screw of a submarine goes, there's a bunch of bubbles that go in behind it. But those bubbles are not just exclusion zone water with air inside it. That air is cavitated, and that's that picture that I sent you. That you can see it. It turns into a torus. Turns into out of itself. And that place, you can put that picture up. That's real quick. Everybody can see it. That's what's happening when that drop of water hits. Up comes a little bit higher, and then it bumps and down and down and down, and then it absorbs. But when it comes up, it's not a drop of water coming up. It's a drop of air with exclusion zone water around it, structuring and holding the water and causing it to cavitate inside out on itself. And that is where cold fusion occurs.
Okay, so that's actually cold fusion at that point.
That's correct. They call it sonoluminescence. It was first seen by dolphin when they were blowing these sonar bubbles and creating these rings that they would play with and, do whatever they do. And then they would let them go and they would pop into white light. And the physics got really interested in that physics and what was really going on. And that is another direction in the nature of structured water. That's a little different. Jerry's work on the fourth phase of water, there are 18 phases of water, by the way, and Mars is one different one. And we can talk about Mars in a little bit. It's the water on Mars, the different phase. Now, the fourth phase of water is H3O2.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of studies trying to use that now. The Russians, using what's called fullerene waters, got water inside it, not deuterium. It's not an isotope for a minute. So it's just the water. What happens is they'll give lethal doses of radiation to rats, feed them fullerene waters, and there's a 95% recovery. And that is a reproducible project now that's being reproduced everywhere. What the fullerene is becoming is a super antioxidant, like 1,000 times stronger than anything that you find in nature. And what it does is it forms these little buckyballs, form these nanotubes that will surround and isolate isotopes, and certain heavy metals and wash them out of your body. Now,
that's great. So wait, is this for sale anywhere yet?
Yes, you can find it everywhere. Let the buyer beware. Yes, there are a number of places that are marketing exclusion zone or easy water. Yes.
Well, yes, I know about that. I did an interview on that. However, there did seem to be some issues with all of that.
The original was based on Rustum Roy's work at Penn State. He was doing work in homeopathy and wanted to see the variation of the types of water using Raman spectrophotometry. It's a type of optical photometry like that would look at Bremenstrahlen radiation or what I did, Carolean photography. Cherenkov radiation. Now that's what I did in high school with Cherenkov radiation, and now they're calling it Bremenstrahlen radiation, and it's all to do with muons and cold fusion processes. Yes.
Okay, and what are muons?
Muons. Originally, my junior year, I said there was a new meson field theory, wrote the math as a little whiz kid, and later it became an elementary particle. It's an elementary particle, one of the basic particles of nature. A muon is what creates tachyons and a tachyon factor rate. And what they did with my high school experiment back then was they used the muon generator to create a tachyon factor rate. They beamed it at Mars on Mariner 4, and then they looked at the radiation pattern that came off, and that told them how much water was on Mars.
Well, what about the radiation on Mars? Did it tell them that as well?
The radiation has to do with the slowing down of a particle going faster than the speed of light. That's what Cherenkov radiation is about. A tachyon is going faster than light, and when it hits a solid object, a radiation pattern is given off as it slows down. And that's what you measure to determine what elements are there.
Okay. Well,
it's an optical thing.
All right. Well, I mean, we can go many directions from here, and I am showing on the screen this water molecule. But I want to know, because you said to me you've got a get out of jail free card. You can go to Mars. You obviously believe this is viable. So we know there are bases on Mars. We know the secret space. I've got so many witnesses in this regard.
No, it's impossible not to realize that Mars has been colonized for some time. The manned expedition the first one was in 68. I have no idea what happened to it, but I do know that there have been many other attempts. India's there right now doing what they're doing. So, other countries are there now participating.
Okay, well, yeah, absolutely. I'm not surprised. In fact, tomorrow night, let me just use this opportunity for those that are listening live and for the ones that get it on YouTube tomorrow and maybe miss out. I'm going to be interviewing a guy who worked on Mars for basically 17 years in the secret space program. His name is Captain K. He came out under his own name, Randy Kramer, recently, and we're going to do a live video interview just like I'm doing here with Richard Allen Miller tomorrow night at the same time. So that's going to be something worth listening to. He was basically a Marine on the ground, so he was fighting just like on Earth. You have the Russians with their stuff and the Chinese. Well, on Mars, what you have are the reptilians and the insectoid beings. Which might possibly be related to the mantis beings, for all I know. But they have small skirmishes, wars, where they cross into each other's bases, and this is basically what this guy was involved in. He also got involved in what we call Solar Warden. So this is all really amazing, great information, and we're going to talk about that. And he's actually been told by his commanding officer to release this information to the public. And
there's been a lot of that recently. I know nothing really about aliens. All my work was mostly in paranormal. And yet, a lot of my friends are now saying that there is going to be disclosure to the public shortly. And when I say that, I'm getting that from other places as well. I have a bunch of people texting me that are listening to you.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Okay, because, we got this thing about time travel, and I want to get into this. We can talk to you for forever because you have such a wide-ranging sort of with the breadth of knowledge, what do you want to call that? So this, hopefully
Yeah.
these people could say interested in time travel, meet here last Thursday, 7 p.m. That's great.
You'd like that little.
Yeah, that does appeal to me, that little thing. So I do appreciate that. Listen, I have a story about a young man from the Pacific Northwest who came to me and told me this story. And he basically said that Nazi scientists were being reverse aged, and that he had evidence of this, and that Werner von Braun was one of them. And that they basically are now, and you should really go back to the people you work for and basically say, well, why aren't you being reversed aged? Because that you're like a national treasure.
How's that Ming put it? My elixir vitae. Where are my weird?
Well, I mean, I don't think you have your what is that? The rock that you're supposed to touch and that keeps you young.
Monolith.
Philosopher's Stone. That's what it is.
Philosopher's.
Yeah, so you should know all about that. Come on, Richard. Don't play dumb.
Philo Stone. Philo was the philosopher from Alexandria, and he smoked a lot of pot.
Whatever he did, he did something right, because that Philosopher's Stone idea is actually substantial and does seem to have some merit. Okay, there is a PDF file. I just want people to know you gave me on teleportation. So what is it you were trying to say about this? Because I'm going to open this up.
This is a new Air Force document. It's unclassified now. Has the math on how the cavitation process works. What they're doing is tunneling a laser beam into something like a fullerene. And what they did down at Livermore.
Okay, no wait. This guy Eric Davis, he's got his address on here. I mean, we don't want people to run down and meet him. Is he still?
Well, that sounds to me like he's probably moved. Okay. That's an old document. You'll notice it's a couple years old.
All right. Yeah.
Let's go forward though. That's probably is on a base somewhere. You can't get into it unless you go through security. What they've done in the National Ignition Facility is built a massive buckyball. And I'm talking about a huge one where they have little tiny ports that they can put the light beam in. That's where they first started. And if you do a Google on the pictures of the National Ignition Facility, you'll see Arnold Schwarzenegger holding the target up. It's a little tiny dot in this big thing that where they're going to hit all the laser beams, go right to the center, and it will cause the deuterium and tritium to go cold fusion. And in the one paper I gave you, there are the patents for that. That came out in 2007 and 2008. And basically what they're doing with the Air Force thing is most likely tunneling the laser beam inside the buckyball and causing it to go critical. It goes critical. When I say critical, not critical mass, it goes critical fusion. And you have this tremendous amount of energy, way more than a nuclear bomb, and it's contained inside a structure. And the structure is only 1.2 nanometers, and you can build them up into bazillions of them. And what do you have next is a new kind of ray gun out of Star Trek when Captain Kirk meets his evil double, and Spock is afraid of the evil Captain Kirk because he has a device where he can look you on a screen and hit you with a ray beam. That's what we're talking about, being able to tunnel light into your body and igniting a fullerene. That's the new weapon.
Okay. Well, let's get a little more practical.
A neutron bomb. It's like a neutron bomb.
Okay, and you're actually positing that this was used in 9/11, right?
Well, okay, let's examine that. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna connect dots, and I don't know, but I can tell you this: when Building 7 came down, that was demolition. There's no question there it was, and you can look at the bottom of it, and it's slag, where concrete turned to slag. Now thermite won't do that. And then there was this 617-foot beam that then started to fall, and as it fell, it began to dissolve, and you can see it on, that was vaporizing it from the temperature, which is a plasma temperature that's like 60 times hotter than the surface of the sun. It's very hot. And this is what a fullerene does. And when you form nanotubes of them, Now you have a controlled tactical nuke that you could use on Baghdad Airport or Gaza, or maybe that flight that you're mentioning that disappeared. Remember, Boeing already copped to the fact that they had black box technology where they could take control of the aircraft.
Yes.
Well, you line that with some fullerenes, hit it with a laser beam from using this Air Force technology, and there's no forensics.
Okay, so in other words, but well, we have evidence that there were certain people on that flight. They didn't want to disappear, but it is interesting. I wonder if you can you disappear something temporarily? In other words, go interdimensional and bring it back.
Well, that's the idea of teleportation. Also, I don't know about that. I'm right now an armchair physicist. I don't have any toys to actually go into a laboratory and play.
Okay.
So what I have to do now is pick up all the false information that I can find and connect the right dots to see how it plays. And that's what I did good for the military, was that when I came to a fork in the road in technologies, I always knew which way to go. I just instinctively, my physics was good enough that I knew what they're doing.
Yeah, but it's more than physics. Come on, it's more than physics. I mean, look, you have an intuitive, you have you're come on, you're a multidimensional soul. You've been here many times. You're reaching in back.
Is the word I use.
Sorry?
Grumpy. I'm one of the
No, really, it's kind of interesting because you know, because I know I have these abilities myself. I'm sure the people listening that are out there listening to this, assuming we still have an audience, basically have these abilities as well. When you're able to tap into those things, those other aspects of yourself, so to speak, and then you bring forward knowledge.
Describing is your higher self. That's the part that why you're here is to discover. You know, what was that one saying? The two most important events in your life is when you're born and when you discover why. And your purpose is probably here the single most important. It's called true will. Your purpose. There's a book out, James Hillman, The Soul's Code: In Search of Character and Calling. The idea of discovering purpose is what Crowley called discovering your magic will, your true will. The magical memory of remembering what you were doing in a past life and picking up where you left off.
Yep.
To continue. And when you do that, you go beyond joy. That's, you have your different, like they have different levels of love. Well, they have different levels of bliss as well.
There you go.
And joy is why the Quakers are always, the idea of you're so inflamed with what you're doing that the universe wants that to happen. That's intense. Yes. That's intense.
Okay, yeah. None shall say nay, as you always quote, I guess, Crowley.
I know, yeah.
Okay, but come on, let's actually delve into that. Now, are you a black magician? You said you can walk into OTO. No, seriously. I mean, come on. You must have in the early days.
Isaac Bonwitz wrote in his book Real Magic. He said, "Black magic, white magic, and living color." Now, black and white is Christian, and this has nothing to do with religions, including Christianity. Christianity. That's the only place where the devil appears. The devil made me do it. That's it doesn't exist. There are demons in other religions, but nobody has a devil. God's not in conflict with anything.
Okay, fair enough.
So black means, now, when I'm doing my true will, it might be quite different than your true will. And that's God's will, because we're both of us only in 4th grade and we don't get the bigger picture. But you can't make judgment on another person. What you have to do is be mindful of yourself. And while you personally...
Well, wait. Let's back up. I mean, that's all good, because don't give me this everything is relative stuff. In the end...
you can't make judgment on another person.
Well, no. If somebody's eating babies or whatever they're doing, I'm going to make some judgments over here, because
Yes, you are, and it's something I wouldn't do. But right now, the United States is the biggest bully in the world, and it has no right to make bullying efforts in Syria or wherever else.
That's right.
Just came out with his paper on the real reasons we're in Syria right now. It has nothing to do with beheadings and ISIS and all that nonsense. It's all about oil.
Well, that's got to be the most
money.
Superficial reason.
Yeah, and I work for Kucinich, and people like them, and that, again, is what we end up doing, is what we're supposed to be doing at the end of the day. And whether we kick and scream doing it, or we do it like Buddha, where the mountain came to me, what we call flow. Being able to find that center place where the universe wants you to do it. Now, there are mental attitudes that you can use to assist or facilitate that smoother movement. The first is called internal landscape, and the way you look at things, to try and do something you've already failed. I mean, it's a question of intent. What actually happens is what's supposed to happen, and the karma part is whether or not you're kicking and screaming, going down the hall, ricocheting off walls.
Well, I mean, what about the notion that in a certain sense you've already lived this moment?
That's a movie that I talked about called Astral City, where this doctor is watching himself die on the operating table, and then at the moment of his death, what happens next? And that's what everybody wants to know. You know, the near-death experience people are the biggest draws in most of the conferences because of their experiences and what they come back anecdotally. I did one with Eben Alexander, who did down in Mexico. I was with him and his wife. He did that book, Proof of Heaven. He's a neurosurgeon he died, came back to life, and had events that he could relate to. Now, in Astral City, that movie would suggest that the physical plane is where we go to be sick spiritually, and that our experience of what we're experiencing in the physical world is the fever that we're currently enjoying, and we're hallucinating. And that once you die, you go back home. And that, in the movie, is in the future. They have these cool beds that float, and everybody heals with their hands. And,
right. You know. Okay. Well, but there's also the scenario in which you leave this dimension and you just get captured by the Greys' little machine, and they basically send you right back down again, and you go round and around again. Let's look at this paper that you've got going on here, because on teleportation, I've got some of the diagrams on here.
Isn't it pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's we've got a wormhole here. You didn't write this paper. You found it.
No. This is one that came across my desk.
I see.
One of those. I have, like you, I have a bunch of physicist friends that respect what I'm trying to do, and I try to be the mouthpiece where I get fed from different people. And it's interesting because I don't know what's really going on. I kind of feel like I'm being led down a hallway, but even I can get it, in terms of the physics involved here. And once I've got that part, that's what makes it real, is my mind's eye. And if I understand the physics of it, I've got it. That means I know how to make a super weapon. And that's, I think, what's happened. I think they're using it everywhere. There's for collateral damage. There are people that get
how about stimulating things like Fukushima?
Okay, we did a killer interview, you and I, on Fukushima, by the way.
Thank you. Well, that's and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I do want to say,
in my opinion, from all the data that I've seen, was a natural event accident waiting to happen. There's more of them. I now discovered that there is no such thing as spent plutonium rods. That's item one. They don't have, at General Electric, Daiichi plants were designed to be clean. So they were either cutting corners or they had weapons-grade plutonium, probably the latter.
Well, no, because, look, we know Stuxnet was involved, which is the Mossad and the U.S. That was involved because they were reading the thing wrong. It was telling them everything was fine when, in fact, the thing was melting down. That's a much later occurrence.
Well, you're saying they rigged equipment to mislead.
Well, there's no doubt. Yeah, that's documented. It's documented. This is Jim Stone.
What I thought it was a coronal mass ejection on March 9th.
Okay, well, that's That's,
Yeah.
I mean, look, you know, one thing that people maybe don't understand what they're doing out there is they're always, come on, they're magicians. What does a magician do? You take advantage of the situation, the weaknesses and the strengths in the situation. You have an intention. Do I get an A?
Profiling. I know that song. Yeah.
Okay.
They know how to make you move.
So, and we have evidence of what was in essence offshore. That we have a strategic area of Honshu, Japan, where repeated earthquakes are happening, and there's also an undersea planted, apparently some kind of a nuke of some kind that we don't know what it was exactly. Some kind of stimulated by this connection. I've got so much information on Fukushima, it's ridiculous.
Well, that could have been a foolery because they don't need a tactical nuke anymore. They've got something that's much cleaner, and there's no way to prove it because there are no forensics. It leaves nothing behind. It's kind of like in that one movie where they put this vacuum in the room and it sucks everything up into a black hole and it's gone.
Okay, well, explain this to me because I interviewed, let's see, he was Simon Parks, and he's a very interesting guy. You ought to watch the interview with him. He's actually a political figure in a low level in Britain, and he's come out and said, he's 33% reptilian, 33% mantis being, and 33% human, and he's been dealing with ET since he was born. His grandfather was a Mason, very high degree Mason. Maybe you guys knew each other. And and he learned black magic at his feet as a child. I mean, it's a fascinating interview.
The black magic part is your first indicator that it's BS.
No,
because magic doesn't have black or white.
We have language. That's all we've got. So there is a classification of a black magician and a white magician for the purposes of understanding, say, good and evil and what's going on in the game being played here on Earth. But to get back to my subject here. What he's talking about is that they've forced through blackmail Japan to build another hadron collider, okay, on the island of Japan. He talks about it in the interview. Now, this is where I want to come back to you because you're one of the people who has said, and you and I both acknowledge, I've also gotten this information psychically, I've got other people out there, that Japan is actually toast. That even the rulers know it, that ultimately at least a very good part of that island is going to sink into the sea. The question is how, when, and why. And so what I want to know is if you know that they're forced through actually blackmail, they're blackmailed into building a hadron collider on Japanese soil on a very unstable area of this planet. What are they doing it for? Why have they targeted the Japanese in this way?
Plausible deniability. I don't have a clue. They bought those islands up in the Kamchatka Sea
yes.
from Russia.
They're planning to abandon the island.
What's that?
They're planning to abandon the island.
Yeah, but yes. And in fact, just last week, new data is now showing that 28% of all the children under 5 in Tokyo right now have thyroid problems, and there is a group of doctors, and it's not like 20, it's like the 200 doctors are calling for the complete evacuation of Japan. It is more than just toast. If you look at the NETCs, the Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center, you'll see the RADCON level alerts. The whole island's lit up like a Christmas tree. And while we have them popping off all over our country here because of all the similar reactors that we have, all of them are over 20 years old. They're all leaking. And I have a witness,
secret witness, who has told me that in the I guess, somewhere around Yugoslavia, somewhere that part of the Far, not the Far East, but not the Middle East, Near East, whatever you want to call that part.
Turkey.
Yeah, Eastern Bloc. There has been a meltdown there that's even worse than Fukushima. They're not even telling people.
Well, Fukushima had at least all 4 reactors melted down. 3 of them were thermonuclear. And that's why that particulate matter that's up in the stratosphere right now is another hot zone that anything coming from Europe going into LAX now is having to be washed and screened. And to be in that aircraft, and I have that in one of the other articles, how much radiation you get exposed to in an aircraft.
Okay, but that's all good. But let's talk about intention. Let's talk about what we're really doing here, because we've got at least a portion of humanity creating, actually re-terraforming our planet around us. And a good portion of these people are just sort of, letting it happen and doing and just enduring it or not enduring it. And I think they want humanity 3.0. They're basically clearing the old wood away. That this is one of the ways in which they're doing it. They're dying. They basically don't know they're dying, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is that they can actually, that the human is this human that we're inhabiting has the ability to withstand all of this and to completely change our DNA and change our ability to deal with the amount of radiation we have around us.
Well, that's what fullerenes and technology give us, the imaging. But let me say, yes, and that's probably possible. What I do know is that there is the war for Earth right now that's going on is going on inside each of us. It's not about a physical battleground anymore. And if you wanted to know where the alien is hiding, you can look in that fourth genome blood type and why we're called Homo sapiens sapiens. It's not physical. It's when you ask me what an alien was, my original response was going to be what Carl Sagan said. They're from much closer and much further away. The war for Earth is going on inside each of us. And at the fourth level of my hologram, of which there's 8 levels, that's where you and me, the archetypal level, is where you and I are the same person and I am the walrus. That's where that means, from a metaphor, that until you do what you're supposed to do, I can't get out of here. And that's how it's going to work, because we're all in this together. And while we're not going to save the Earth per se, our children are watching us. And that's like the little mini-me's, the reincarnation of me and my wife joined together with a knowledge base, and off my little mini-me goes in a reincarnation. And if you don't think they're not watching us and what we do.
That's right.
So that's where the fiduciary responsibility comes in, is where you have to realize that you can't make judgment on other people. You can't say, well, he's lazy and I'm going to kick him to get off his butt. But what you can do is get up off your own couch.
Absolutely. And
walk the talk. And that's why Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young sang that song, Teach Your Children Well. It all starts with our children. That is
what is
our most important asset.
All right, thank you for that. What is Minkowski space used to create a wormhole? No, really, I'm serious.
Minkowski space has to do with the way space and time bend on each other. If you want to know what gravity is space that's been bent. It's not a force in itself. It's like if you had a latex glove and you put a brick in the center of it, it's going to stretch that space out, so that if I took a marble, the marble would normally run straight down into if I dropped the marble on it, wouldn't go around in like a planet. It would go straight in, but it will actually go in a spiral because of Coriolis forces. And so, with rotation of relationship of one thing to another, creating other kinds of forces that are happening in the universe. And really, time and space aren't really real except in one level of space. And then at higher levels, they're a simple subset, and they're not real. And that's where we start talking about time being a duration of consciousness, and the way you take a singularity and bring it into a bubble, which you will call a memory. It's the way you store information and the way information is stored. And because it's got metaform to it, it's beyond space and time. And that's what your gut is over your logic brain. Your gut is outside space and time. And if you pay attention to what your gut tells you to do, you'll end up doing the right thing. Always. because that's how it works. Your upper brain, this one, that's there to make all your beliefs true. You hallucinate yourself into seeing things certain ways because that's what I expect to see.
Okay, well, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
How about this? If you think about which way you should run when the zombies are running all over, one of the scenarios is that you're going to get eaten. One is you get away. That's what this brain does. Gives you the different possibilities. When they become possible, then they become probable. That's Merlin when he said it to Arthur. Anything not specifically forbidden is mandatory. If it's possible, you can count on it. That means you're going to get shot. But if you work with your gut, that's doing what you're supposed to be doing in the universe.
Okay, well, what about Schrodinger's cat?
Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat wasn't really a cat. It was a cat house. And there were a whole bunch of cats inside. And some of them were dead. And some of them were alive. And some of them were extra dimensional. Listen, the problem with quantum mechanics is indeterminacy. Heisenberg. The more you know about one thing, the less you know about something else. And you have entanglement and you have decoherence. It's like they're not. But we already know, like the tunneling thing, that when something's doing out here, it's doing something's relating to it. That's the Bose-Einstein.
Well, did you work with signal non-locality when you were working for the government?
Did I what?
Did you work with signal non-locality when you were working for the government? Did you do any experiments in that area? Entanglement, single.
If I remember back, I can't remember. We were doing in.
Well, did you write about it in your books? I mean,
Delaware.
This relates to what you're talking about: time and space being something of an illusion.
Really,
yeah, I mean that. Entanglement meaning that you can actually be entangled with someone who is across the planet from you.
Well, you already are.
Well,
That's
sure,
but in
a more specific way. There is a television show that's being produced by Spielberg, which is, of course, no accident, right? And it's called Under the Dome. I don't know if you've heard about it or seen it.
No, I haven't yet. But
okay. But what they do is, it's actually something very interesting in what they're doing. They're playing a mental game with people in regard to that story.
Now, Lucy, the movie, was an example of what you can do. At the end of the movie, she's changing timelines like a movie screen.
Yes.
How do you do that? Because the brain is a four-dimensional hologram of five space.
Okay.
You're constantly changing your amorphous semiconductors, which means that you're a four-dimensional hologram. That means if you can learn how to go to different places in the brain, you can have a different reality. That's why the saints talk about meditation and the importance of training the mind.
Well, it's why I have a different reality half the time. But,
I like to drink what she's having. Oh, that was when Ted met out.
Yeah. Okay, well.
I want to have what she's having.
All right. Let's bring this back, though, because we do have some people listening over here.
Do they have questions?
And that's what I want to do. I want to open this up for questions. People have been listening, and I think being very patient in the process.
By the way, it's always a pleasure to play with you, even though we go all over the place. Actually, we're covering a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
And it's important. It gives you a broader spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, we're putting some important things here. Now, one person has put a question in here. What about a scalar beam weapon? How does that factor in?
A scalar is a lesser dimension form of something. That means a scalar would be your shadow. In reference to the sun, it moves and does all its things. In reference to what you're doing is a more dimensioned being. So a scalar is a lesser form. Now, Hieronymus first started radionics where he built this device and he aimed it at this tree and he went boom and all the insects fell out of the tree. And then what he did is he opened the box, pulled the electronics out and wrote a little schematic and put that inside the box, closed it down, boom, and the insects ran out again. Now, was it the
Really?
electronics? Yes, that was
That's
the
cool.
original radionics experiments by Hieronymus.
Ah.
It led to the nature and concept of what radionics is, as a radiesthesia is the actual word, where you use something external to cause changes, like a dowsing rod. That's a form of radiesthesia.
Well, it's also why aliens write things on the outside of their spaceships. Basically, they put something in those diagrams. Again, we're back to Stan Tennant.
Now, that's Bearden's work on scalar physics. Bearden was an engineer, though. He's out of Texas. His work was using scalar weapons, where like someone like John Hutchinson is going to take some radar equipment and try to destabilize isotopes using frequency resonant cavity oscillators, where it steps down or ups into the microwave band even though it's in radar. That's what scalar physics is about, literally. It is using metaphor.
Really?
Yeah, that's how it works. And the Russians started a lot of that. They were very hysterical people. Well, I love Russians. They drink and they moan a lot, you know, like Zhivago, everything's in despair. You know, that's the weather. But their work in radionics with Rajek and Karoly and some of the others, their original works, were very interesting. And that's where Bearden started doing his scalar math on that. And what we're talking about is transformations going from one subset to another in metaphor. Resonant cavity oscillators are an example where you break things down into smaller systems in the way they communicate. Now, if you work at the small end, you're working at a scalar level, where if you do something down here, it has a butterfly effect up about here. It'll change. Okay. It'll, you know, it's like you can hear the beat of a butterfly at the other end of the world. It has the butterfly effect. That's what scalar physics is about. It's an amplification.
Okay, but aren't they using this in surveillance right now?
Remote viewing. The distinctional difference between remote viewing and astral projection is that ESP has a cord and it comes from inside and it's you doing it. Remote viewing is where something is looking at you. These papers have been written by Alex Kavarainen and Matty Pitkinen and Leon Sidoroff in Emergent Mind Bulletin on the internet. You can find them on suggesting that remote viewing is a form of PK phenomena. Now, here's the bad news. If it's PK phenomena, and there's a very strong argument that it is, it's quite dangerous to the observer, because, like all things, when you observe something, you change it. And because it's PK phenomena, it means something like the ghosts of Mars is looking at you and not changing you while they're doing it. Now,
okay, well, I mean, you know, there's not just remote viewing, there's remote influencing, and there's, there's a lot more than that.
Clairaudience and clairascension, it's always in terms of one of the five senses.
Well, but there's also sort of a time travel element to it. Which did you ever read Psychic Warrior?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yes, I know about that. That part is precog and retrognition, but there's a PK analog to that, which is called levitation and apportation. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I feel.
Well, okay, but that's valid. But think about all the remote viewing going on the planet, because there's a lot of teaching of this, a lot of people doing it. So if you're saying that it's
people being contaminated by it.
Right, so they're being affected. I mean, there's, on a certain level, though, it is possible to observe each other in the astral, basically, in the ether.
Well, okay, there is a very interesting website put together by a bunch of crazy anthropologists called Lucifer.com. Uh-huh. And what they're doing is talking about the Church of the Virus, where the concept of an idea is a meme. It's a virus that can be just like any other Ebola virus, can be quite devastating. Alien abduction, whatever. The concept is a metaphor in terms of the way.
Yeah, you know, because people always use it in a negative sense, but actually, like freedom, like you know, like revolution, like the fact that actually truth is now the name of the game on planet Earth, and that's why the Illuminati can't get out of it anymore, because everyone has a compulsion to tell the truth.
You know, information is not about truth. Information is now a weapon of war.
Yes.
Truth.
Actually, but there's a higher level, because nothing exists on just one level.
Yes, that's right. But truth can only be found inside yourself, not outside. And it's different for each of us. Which, no, it is. I mean, you know.
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, you know, I appreciate that. I appreciate that to some degree.
Well, of course, great. I mean, you know, and the fact that I'm seeing the fence over there is red, and you're claiming on the other side of the fence that it's green, it could be both. And really, we're only in 4th grade. God's will. You know,
maybe some of us are in 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
Intention, right, Richard? No, look. Okay, someone is asking here, what's the difference between Lucifer and Satan in your view?
What's the difference between Lucifer and Satan? Well, Lucifer was God's favorite as part of the fallen angels, where the devil somehow seems to be God's equal. Like God's at war with something and he's got to battle something. God's not at war with anything. Now, I will say this. Bob Dylan said it right when he said everybody's got to serve somebody. And so I'm going to guess there's a hierarchy of gods. And I'm going to guess that there are good aliens, bad aliens, and ugly. And there are rules of engagement where they can try to distract you. It's a new car! Oh, you know, and get all excited because money is a theatrical prop. It's not real. What's real is what you end up doing at the end of the day. That is what true will is about. Okay. And we don't have free will. If we had free will, we'd have full disclosure. We don't. That's the deal. See, we don't have full disclosure, so we don't have free will.
Well, actually, on a certain level, I mean, again, that depends how you look at it. As far as I'm concerned, we're disclosing every day.
Well, yeah, good luck with that. There's so much disinformation out there now that to shaft through it, even the attack dogs, I mean, they're all over the place.
Yeah, true. No doubt about it. Okay.
You know, I mean, now I'm starting to get bitten by some of them, and it's interesting because I'm actually trying to do the right thing. I don't know, and I do make mistakes, but I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing best, which is basically right. That's what I do. I write really good books, and I try to make it clear enough that everybody gets it, because once you've got it in your mind's eye, that's all there is. It isn't about knowledge and knowing things. It's what do you do with it? How are you going to apply that to finish your purpose here? That's where it's all of us need to do that, because our children are watching us, and that's where they learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. It's really important to do your own thing, even if it seems in conflict, because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Okay, someone is asking you, when will the 3rd book, The Non-Local Mind in a Holographic Universe, be out?
It's ready for press when I have a patron or someone I can afford to do it. It will be the 10th book. I have 10 books right now. That was the only book I could not recover when they wiped my computer. However, I had only just started it, and I got a whole new set of the way I'm going to structure it, so it's probably a good thing anyway. I've got 10 books ready for press right now. The encyclopedia has 2 more copies of 5-volume. I've got 2 more volumes ready for that. Sequeling the native plants will be forest farming. Sequeling The Modern Alchemist will be my book on tarot called Pantheon. These are all ready to go. The Marshall Papers, Spook Central, and The Non-Local Mind. The Non-Local Mind should be out by this time next year.
Okay, what about Judy
It's
Woods?
written now, but it'll be out.
Okay, excellent. What about Judy Woods' theory about the Twin Towers being dustified with scalar weapons? Have you heard that theory?
Yeah, I think they were hit with a neutron bomb. I think, well, not a neutron, a modified fullerene.
Fullerene, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think I think this is Duff. Gordon Duff is basically, you know, they basically said 9/11 was planned at Sandia Labs. They have the evidence. They have all that.
Terrorism bill through Congress. That's all. They had to have a collateral damage. They had to have a body count in order to have the public. You know, that's the three words that Europeans say for America right now is ignorant, ill-informed, and complacent. Those are the three words used by it. And yet,
well,
even when you were in England, they're all watching to see what you're going to do. Because somehow they figure we're going to be the ones that figure out how to get out of this mess.
Well, when it kind of gets back to the way I see this thing called that I call a rebel gene. You know what I'm talking about? You either got it or you don't, and well, you can try to develop it through meditation. But what I find is, you know, where most whistleblowers come from, they're Americans. Now, wrap your mind around that. What is that all about?
Yeah, what I've heard just in the last week is that the intelligence community, Gordon Duff said, are at war with something.
Yeah.
And I only guess what that is. With the recent media coming out on disclosures with aliens and whatever, I'm going to guess there's rules of engagement. And what we need to do is go internal and determine what's really important. Mm-hmm. Money isn't real. It's a theatrical prop.
Yes.
And barter. That is, what is that called? The Ithaca dollar. That is the way it's going to work. And get to know your neighbors. And people next door to you. It's about time. I know you live in LA and you don't want to know. But it's going to be your floor when the zombies come through that are going to be protecting you and staving it off. And you can count on all of that.
Okay, well, there is some new information out there someone sent me today, which is about Ebola, that they've had several Ebola victims come back to life and turn into zombies. That's what somebody sent me.
Well, okay. First off, I'm not even sure it's Ebola virus that's actually the thing they're working with. I think it's that Russian lookalike, that Russia developed that zombie drug. They were going to have China eat itself up. And what happened is they went in partnership against the petrodollar. And by the way, that whole thing about the gas dropping right now is they're trying to punish Russia. It's not going to work. It's going to blow up. And what's going to happen next is that Saudi Arabia is most likely going to do something hinky against us by buying with non-petrodollars. I believe that's going to happen this month, and it's going to be the first death knell of the American dollar. I think it's going to happen this month, too.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, you heard it here, people. Let's see. I don't know. This is kind of a bit vague of a question, but do you think that there is an organic order, that harmonizes with Source? And if so, wouldn't white magic be aligning with that?
The first part is, yes, there is. We call it mycorrhiza, habitat. Man is not human. We're less than 10% human cells, and the rest of us are bacteria, viruses, yeasts, and water transport processes. We're a habitat, and we're unique because each of us, like a universe, galaxy, is unique galaxy. You know, with I got a little more of this here, and you've got that, and whatever. That is what's happening in the soil. There's a habitat. There's a woman up at UBC that did a video on the mother tree, just like in Avatar, where if you go into a forest, there is a central tree that is the oldest tree in the forest, and it networks information out, like when a forest fire or other kinds of things are going on. It's called mycorrhiza, and these are the soil organisms in forming a habitat of communication.
That's lovely.
And basically, Gaia, as such, is a quantum computation algorithm and qualifies as conscious. And
yes.
So we haven't even begun to understand what's going on around us like that.
Yeah,
you know, there's
absolutely
in the atmosphere, the aurora borealis and sprites in my universe of physicists see that as a life form.
Yes.
Sentient.
Yes.
You know, actually, it's all short-lived, but nonetheless is self-organizing.
Okay. Well, for one thing, did you...
Black part, working with light magic and ground. Well, grounding, you know, walking around in bare feet, getting that connection with the soil. All of that is part of your mind's eye and your relationship to yourself. And it's all important. And so if you walk in the light, you're a light. Doesn't mean it's the same light as my light. That's why they have different rays of colors. But, well, I mean, you know, they use it like that, you know, that idea that we have different, you know, purposes.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, at this point, is there anything that we haven't covered? No, just kidding. No, I mean, you know, this has been a great interview, and I've kept you for about 2 hours, so I'm going to try to close it down on a little bit here. But I just want to make sure there might be a few random ideas that you might want to get across.
I think that it is important for all of us to start taking that first step. The first step is always the hardest. You're not supposed to do it all in one day. My garden is a metaphor. The first year I put my garden in, it was full of weeds. The second year I learned how to harvest fruit and vegetables out of it. The third year I learned how to can, and this year I'm learning how to eat out of my cupboards. Small steps on doable projects. 1, 2, 3. Start with something that's doable, that empowers you. Something that gives you sovereignty from the current infrastructure you use with power, heat, light, entertainment, whatever. I'm learning how to play spoons. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I'm actually. I think Mike Harris might be behind the scenes over here, so I'm just trying to see if he wants to say something.
Oh, Michael. Yes, Mike lives here in this area.
I know.
I go hiking with him. He and his girlfriend and their.
Oh, he is. He is actually. Yeah, Mike, you wanna come on for a couple minutes and shoot the shit, so to speak.
Yeah.
You want to participate?
Yeah.
I've got him over here, so just wait 1 second. Let me see. I don't know if he can hear you.
Technology in its very finest, as you stare down into a black void.
Okay, well, let me see. I don't even know if I can finesse this. I can give it a shot. Okay.
Okay.
We might try to get Mike over here. Let me see if I can put something else on the visual screen in the meanwhile. So hold on 1 second here.
Michael, you know, is an extremely buff individual. He actually does a lot of his workout things just like in the movies.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I know he is. He's serious about health and fitness,
yeah.
and so yeah, absolutely. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to try to get him here. Okay.
There he is. Where's Mike's camera?
Hey, Rick, how are you? I don't have a camera on. I'm in hiding. Hang on. Let me see if I can put a camera on.
That's all right.
No, it's okay. We got you anyway. We got your voice, and that's good stuff.
Either of you will recognize me. Hang on a second. Hang on.
All right. I'm going to give us more volume because you're a little...
look at that. I've got a little curly Q coming
there
up.
You go. Curly Q's things happening here. It's plugged in. Everything should work.
Okay, well, this is kind of fun. Happy to have you, Mike. Actually, this gives me a chance to say that I'm going to be on Mike's. There you are. How you doing, Mike?
I grew a beard.
Oh, yeah. Don't even look like
yourself. Okay. I haven't seen you yet on mine.
Well, Rick, not this weekend, but next weekend you're invited over for dinner. Bring your girlfriend, okay?
All right. Well, we've got things we got to do. So, you like my eyebrows? I'm getting them very bushy. I'm going to have them shaved. The first thing my hairdresser does is he shaves my eyebrows off.
Well, you have the Boris Yeltsin look going there.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it that Russian look?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know why I've got two of me going on here, but This is kind of weird.
I don't know.
Anyway, I just wanted to respond to Rick's earlier comments that as far as 9/11 goes, we've got the Russian intel download that this was definitely some sort of a nuclear event. And
it was a fission, yeah, a fusion. It was a fusion event, not a fission one. And like a neutron bomb.
Well,
I'll send you the links, Mike.
We have sources. We've got the direct data from Sandia Labs. They've done the analysis. We know where the materials came from. They're U.S.-made materials that were hijacked and sold by George H.W. Bush to the Israelis. The Israelis brought them back in and used them on 9/11.
They have been using them. I know that the Baghdad airport had what appeared to be tactical nukes, but it wasn't. It was this new weapon. And Gaza, I actually have some pictures of the laser beam going down into Gaza from space.
I've seen those pictures as well. I've seen it.
Yeah. So. Interesting. I don't know what it all means. NOAA infrared has captured some weapons testing over Hawaii and Tennessee also that I saw. That was a geo bomb.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that was it. That one tornado that was going to hit Hawaii went off into sea and was breaking down like mostly they do. When all of a sudden that thermal bomb, and it's not a boom bomb, it's a thermal bomb. It's very
hot. I'm very familiar with it. I've got the I have the technical white papers on those. If you want to see them, I'll share them with you.
Yeah, feel free to keep building my library and making it more creepy. No, I mean, some of that stuff is very strange, new technology, no disclosure. Most of it came out of MIT and now is being studied directly down in at Livermore. Sandia, they're up in New York.
No. They're over in Nevada.
No.
And they go part of Nevada over into New Mexico.
Sandia is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Los Alamos is closer to Santa Fe. But they're within 90 miles of each other, and they're two separate labs. Sandia is more of the engineering arm, and Los Alamos is more of the pure science arm.
Yeah, there's a giant.
So we did Lucent Technologies and Bell Labs were the ones when I was younger. Those were the ones that were doing a lot of the reverse engineering stuff. You know, most of that was from previous civilizations. I don't know if it was alien or not. When I saw artifacts, what I saw could have been from previous civilizations. You know, down in Texas, there's that wall, that they've discovered that had tin in it. Mm-hmm. You know, and tin only comes from where? I mean, it's kind of creepy.
Okay, well, it looks like it was also involved in the Manhattan Project, and there is a TV series right now dealing with the Manhattan Project, which I'm not sure how much disinformation is being put out in that TV series, but it is interesting.
I used to say if you wanted to know what's going to happen, follow Hollywood.
Well, absolutely. That's really becoming the trend here. And Rick, your comment here that you think the economy is going to collapse in October, is that?
No, I think we're going to see it right now because of the drop in gasoline prices. I think Saudi Arabia is going to, not ISIS. I don't think it'll be an ISIS thing. I think it'll be Saudi Arabia will buy some of their stuff with non-petrodollars. I think that's how it's going to happen. And if that happens,
I'm inclined to agree with you that the drop in gasoline prices is an attempt to harm Russia, Iran, Syria, the countries that depend on oil revenue for their gross national product. It's absolutely an attempt to harm them and to get them to heal. But this BRICS thing is got so much momentum right now. 197 countries have signed on for it. And once that is funded, say goodnight to the Federal Reserve. It's about time we broke the Fed. Is it going to be hard for the people of this country? Yes, it is. But it's time for new leadership to come forth in this country.
I heard
to arrest the criminals.
Wait, Mike, 1 second. Let's hear from Richard here.
Yeah, I heard that the Fed was originally funded from the Tang Dynasty or one of the Chinese dynasties. I think that's where all the money originally came from, was China. in the Fed. And my understanding now is everything's gone.
Well, Michael Shrimpton says that every war we've ever had in the West has been funded by the Chinese.
Yeah,
and that's what they've been doing.
Well, that's what they're doing right now. They're making a run for our utilities. That's what that Bundy Ranch crap was all about. And what they're doing up in Canada right now is trying to take over
surface Earth also.
What's that?
Surface Earth. They're selling them surface Earth, and you got to wonder why. Because basically the underground bases that occupy that area, there's no way they're letting the Chinese in there.
No, but they wanted to put in a bunch of solar panels, and so what China did was hired a couple senator and a governor, running governor, a father and son.
That's right.
Really, that was creepy. And I have worked with BLM.
Well, they did this. Wait, Richard. They did this. We have evidence. They did this in Texas. The exact same thing they did with the Bundy Ranch, and they did it in California. They've been doing it in California as well.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this about that, because you're both right. And the problem that we have in this country is we need a better class of leadership. We do not have leadership. We are run by prostitutes. We are run by whores who sell themselves to the highest bidder. And we need people who are really loyal to America. We're loyal to the human race, if nothing else. And
that'd be nice for a change.
We need a better class of leader. It's up to us, we the people, to demand it and to put forth our best and brightest. And it's a tough thing to do, because the bad guys will try to crush anybody who comes up and tries to.
What's needed now are a bunch of statesmen. That's what's needed now. We haven't had a real, true statesman trying to do the right thing for a very, very long time. Arizona, that one woman that called those hearings on geoengineering flat out said, there's nothing we can do as congressman. She said that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to be realistic about the game that's being played and the battle, the actual battle that's taking place.
Well,
we're fighting the battle right here. Yeah. I mean, you have to understand that this is the power right here.
Yeah.
The hearts and minds.
When the government went broke, when they closed down everything, and they blocked off the war memorial so that people in wheelchairs couldn't go visit the war memorial, I looked up in the air and they were still laying down chemtrails. Who's paying for that?
Yeah.
And
that's a good question. Who is paying for that, and why?
Yeah, and there's no accountability. That's the word. No accountability.
Well, actually, that's a topic we didn't get to.
That's documentary.
Okay, Richard, but we didn't get to that topic. Do you want to talk about that, geoengineering?
I can mention it briefly. It's past my bedtime. Okay. What they're doing, they took a bacteria from the stratosphere. It's called an extremovite, and they modified it into a nanobot. And what it does is it creates a polymer, and it just pumps them out like crazy. Now, what they'll do is line that with barium oxide, and what it does is it dehydrates the air and forms artificial clouds, which can be used as waveguides for Star Wars weapons. They can, fly it and use it like a waveguide, and they can bounce it across. Now, what's happening is it takes about a year for that polymer to fall out of the sky. It actually stays up there for quite a long period. And what happens next is when it does get down into the ground, it's in everything, including your body. You can put a swab inside your mouth, put it on a slide, and there it is at 600 mics. You can see it. And what it's probably doing is micro-dehydrating everybody.
Yeah,
and that means that the amount of water that you're drinking right now is actually really not enough. And what's going to happen next is your immune system starts to collapse, and you're more prone to virus and plague.
Yeah.
So they're trying to prep everybody up on that for collateral damage, because there are too many people on Earth.
Well, actually, what Mark Richards, Captain Mark Richards, told me is that they basically are using that, and they are basically creating humanity 3.0. They're augmenting us, turning us into semi-robotic super soldier types.
Well, that's the bio-API connection. That's in there. Bio-APIs are, they flip it in water, it's site-selective, it locks into a certain part in your brain, and you're now a cell phone.
Yeah, you're part of the AI. You're part of the mind.
That's why they call it
supermind.
welcome. That in NASA's document, welcome to the Borg, the bots, and the humans.
Yeah, incredible
I've read that
stuff.
That is transhumanism and the Avatar program, and that's because with Fukushima not even talking about geoengineering as an extinction event, there is going to be no human life left on Earth by 2050, and that's even in the NASA document. So we'll be something else. That's how quickly everything is changing.
But we're spirit. We inhabit these bodies at this time, and we're actually fighting the good fight right now to preserve the human genome, and that's what it's all about.
Sometimes it's a great notion.
All right,
He's
look,
such an optimist.
I'm gonna close this down. It's a delight to see both of you
I
and
love you,
have
Mike.
you all here.
Hey, Rick, I'll have you on next week. And by the way, Carrie, you're on my show tomorrow.
Yes,
So
tomorrow
we'll
at
see you.
11 a.m. Pacific
11
time.
a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. East Coast time.
Okay.
So I look forward to it. And both of you have a great evening. Thanks for letting me on for these 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you so much.
All right.
See you later,
Good night.
All right.
Richard. See you. Bye-bye.
Last words, Richard?
Huh?
Last words?
I just would say it's time for us all to start getting off the couch and beginning our work. And there is, how did the Hopi prophecy, how did the Indians put it? This is not the 11th hour. This is the hour.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. Time to pony up. No.
Okay. Yeah, you are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones you've been waiting for. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, take care. We'll do this again sometime soon. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Good night and travel well.
Take care, Carrie. So
Okay.
nice to see you again after so long a period. DUNN.
Okay. You
Yeah.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
March 17th.
No, I know, but is that because you're what do you call it? Would that be your parents that would be?
Yeah, English. I have real strong English and Irish background, Scottish.
Oh, yeah?
Mason. I'm a 5th generation Mason on the Nelson line. So I'm directly related to Lord Nelson.
Right. You have the pedigree to go with the chops.
I have the typo negative blood.
Yeah, it figures. I can tell that. Actually, I can tell that by looking at you, to be honest, Richard.
Yeah. I got the reptilian or that Stacey Keach thing I do with my tongue.
Well, actually, Bill Ryan has that blood. I know what that blood looks like when I see someone. Yeah. Yeah. So the Illuminati love you.
Oh, the Illuminati love me. I don't think so. I'm not gay. And that's where they hang out. Let me tell you.
That's true. That's true. But still, they respect your bloodline, though. Keep that in mind. So they won't kill you. They won't kill you. Do you know that? They won't kill you. No, they won't kill you. So they'll mess with you, which they've definitely done, but they won't kill you.
Is that comforting?
No, for what it's worth, just.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. I needed that. I'm not kidding. It's been a very strange 2 months, this last 2 months.
Okay, well,
comic got packed.
Hey, this is your show. Richard Allen Miller and I go way back, so this is why we're so crazy here, and we're going to let anything fly. We're going to be talking about everything under the sun. I'm going to rake him over the coals. We're going to, he's going to like it.
I heard so.
No, we really, we'll drill down because you're out on the circuit. You're talking to everyone and their brother, right? But you had a weird experience on Jimmy Church, so let's start with that. Because
we had, when I was doing Jimmy Church, we had over 2,000 tweets. And yet...
Huge audience.
What's that?
You had a huge audience.
I don't know how big the audience was. What happened was I only sold one book. And, when I did George Norrie, I did like at 400. When I did John Wells, I did like 4,000. And when I did 4,000,
Yeah.
And so to sell one book, we went to Amazon to see if there was something wrong or broken or, whatever.
Right.
Because I have a lot of books. It isn't just like just selling one book. How does that work? And literally,
yes, yeah, no, and they probably
he's a good interviewer. He's not. I like John Wells. And you. I like both of you.
You better say you like
and
me.
Mel Fabregas. I have a couple favorites. They're different.
Yeah.
But
well, Jimmy enjoyed you. I think it was the first time for Jimmy to come across somebody quite like you. I think you really pushed the envelope for them, because I listened to the interview and I think you did a lovely job, and kudos to you. I think you you come across as like you're this wild man, but you're actually quite sensitive, and I like watching you operate. No, really, because you seem like you're not paying attention. So you seem like you're off on your tangent, but you pay attention to the energetics around you, and so you work off that.
Yeah, that's internal landscape. That's EQ. That's even more important than IQ is EQ.
Yes.
That internal landscape and being sensitive. We're all empaths if you want to.
Yeah. No, you definitely have 10 books sitting to be published. 10 more books, right?
Yeah, those are the ones that got wiped off my computer. I have reconstructed 9 of them from different people. Dr. Lenny Time is doing the Marshall Papers, which was on Buckminster Fuller and stuff like that. The one
awesome.
I lost.
I want to read that one. I've been a huge fan of Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, Bob Marshall was the idiot savant that Buckminster Fuller hired to do the geodesic dome concepts in the vector equilibrium matrix.
Cool.
There was a standing thing. Riemann, Dr. Riemann, about 100 years ago, challenged the mathematical community to come up with a mathematical expression for recurring primes. Nobody's done that, okay? And Bob Marshall did it in 2 days by visualizing a 3-dimensional cone with a certain pitch to it, and then did numbers around it with a different pitch around it, and was able to draw a straight line to it. He did it.
Okay, but what is the significance of recurring primes? I mean, what is that, time travel?
No, primes in base 10 is your 1.
I know what a prime number is. What I'm asking you is what's the significance of it?
Primes.
If it's a recurring prime, what does it mean? What does it give us?
It's not divisible by anything but itself.
Okay, and so what does that mean?
In a base 10 system, it has to do with the way logarithms work. I'm not the mathematician that responded to Riemann.
Okay. All right.
It was Bob Marshall that did that. He was the one that was the genius that did that. But that's part of the book, is how he evolved the vector equilibrium matrix, which is basically a triangle with a center that is mathematically not possible. In other words, it is an event horizon situation. That's what makes the vector equilibrium matrix, makes the buckyball as strong as it is. Did you know that a buckyball is actually the structure of C60 carbon is maybe 100 times stronger than diamond? And that's what they're making now, are nanotubes. Yes. Eventually, that one article I wrote with your logo on it, Cassidy interview from last year on Fukushima, they're going to make an elevator into space using nanotubes, using carbon.
Actually, I heard they already did, and it leaves from somewhere in Germany.
Of course it does. I like that Stargate myth myself better. Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too. Okay,
but so that's an Air Force, and I sent you that document.
Yeah, teleportation. Okay, now everyone, I don't have my website working properly. It's been really aggravating me lately. But the thing is that I put out an article. There's a teleportation document that you sent me. Rick sent me a bunch of documents right before we went here on the air, and so it's on my website if you want to download it, if the article is on the front page. But if the article didn't make it to the front page yet, it'll be there soon because it's been uploaded. It's just not showing up. Some weird thing.
That document gives the math on how it works. What they're doing right now is they're able to teleport a light beam from one point over here to one point over here, and without having to go through space. And they show the math on that in the document. It's an Air Force document. It's been declassified. And what they're doing is using that to ignite new kinds of weapons.
Really?
They teleport, a laser beam. If you put a laser light inside a buckyball, what would happen? It would laze by ricocheting off the
That's
wall.
what I was going to say. It's going to bounce off all the surfaces, and then what happens? Does it destroy itself?
Especially if the center of that buckyball.
Does it go interdimensional?
No. It's a laser beam in physical dimension that they place inside.
I know, but if it's gonna bounce off all the surfaces, eventually it's gonna hit itself, won't it?
Oh, it ricochets into the center, and it causes the center to laze. There is on the internet, if you look up the National Ignition Facility in Livermore, you'll get a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger looking at the target they're going to do. And the target will be deuterium. In fact...
What is deuterium? I don't even know.
Heavy water.
Oh, yeah?
It's an isotope of water. There's water, and then there's deuterium and tritium. Those are the two isotopes.
It's not water 3.0. It's not that, is it?
No.
It's
water,
different.
Okay, let's talk about water for a second. Water has two forms. It's ortho and para. These are levorotary. One goes in that direction, the other goes in that direction. Now, this one is more prevalent, so there's three of these, so one of these in nature usually. Okay, para and ortho. Now, that's water. That's H2O. Then you have Carey Reams that takes three water molecules, puts them together, and it becomes H7O9 with a free radical ion. It's a water cluster. It's a grouping of water. Then you have hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. Then you have exclusion zone water, which is bringing a third hydrogen molecule in, so it becomes H3O2. And it bends the structure so that exclusion zone water acts like a register, very similar to gallium arsenide, when we make computer chips and we talk about, I don't know.
So it has memory. It has memory.
Yes. It stores memory. Only water is possibly 1 million times, that's 6 zeros, more efficient than our current systems of computer chips. And I'm predicting that water will eventually become our new computer form.
Well, you know what? That's because I say we are the living library of humanity, and so that we contain that water. You know that we contain water H3O.
Yes, we H2O and H3O2.
H3O2. Yes.
That's exclusion zone. Now, you can get that exclusion zone water by praying over it like the Catholics do. And I understand you can kill vampires with it.
And Masaru Emoto also did, he did all his water experiments and showed.
The intentionality experiment.
Yes.
We'll talk about intention to be distinguished from intentionality later, if you'd like, having to do with the Stanford argument, where intention is what you end up doing at that moment, and intentionality is Maxwell Smart saying, missed it by that much. You don't do it. It is something that doesn't happen. And that is called the Stanford argument on the distinction of what is and what is not. Intent and intentionality. And intent has to do
that down, and I admire that, and I think you handled yourself very well on there, because you really sense out your audience, right? You do. No, you do.
Done that. The one book sale might have been a warning.
No, okay, we're going to try to help you tonight with that. So what is the situation? Where do people go to buy your books to make sure that you get the money? Because we want to tell people that Richard Allen Miller has been hit. They stole everything he has as far as his writings. They wiped his computers, and he is trying to make it back. He's got limited funds. He's a lovely man, and he's just trying to stay alive here by telling the truth. So if people are listening to this, when it goes out over YouTube tomorrow, when I get it uploaded, we're going to expand the audience that way as well. So this is an important moment. So tell us and tell the audience.
Yeah, okay, well, you can get my books almost anywhere, but my official website, where you get them from me, and I autograph and sign them, is oak-publishing.com. And Oak is an old artifact from my military days. It was a think tank I put together for Boeing and Battelle, and back in 1970, 69. And now it's called the Organization for the Advancement of Knowledge, Oak Publishing, and oak-publishing.com. And basically, I turned it over to my lectures, writing, and research. You know, I had Northwest Botanicals, and I was farming. Mostly for the last 35 years, I've been a dirt farmer and working in the woods.
And collecting pine cones. I love that story. That was so brilliant, you know.
Well, 120 truckloads a year.
Yeah.
3-foot high boys. It kept a lot of people employed out in the woods, supplementing income. We do mushrooms and fir boughs, but the pine cones worked pretty good. Well, we sold big ones to Bear Creek, and they'll dip them in peanut butter and then put birdseed on them, bird feeder.
Really?
Yeah. The birds like peanuts. And it'll stick the seed, birdseed.
Really?
Yeah, and the cone won't rot, so it'll hang there for a couple years.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. You're full of surprises as always. Okay. Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do with you tonight, first of all, I'm going to read this bio I've got for you. So I'm going to switch over here. So he says he's a physicist, biophysicist, herbologist. Born in 1944, author and researcher Richard Allen Miller reveals a wealth of depth and knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture, New Age physics, and metaphysics. He began working in the X-Files world around the 1960s, has had amazing experiences and conclusions to share. Boy, that's been really sort of tailored and wiped, right? You know, this is
Iona wrote that.
Yeah. Okay, she was massaging. This is how you massage a magician's resume. Okay, so an original team member, Men in Black. Miller's research is in the field of parapsychology, paraphysics, and began as a graduate physicist working 11 years with Navy Intel. He's back with Navy Intel, by the way, guys, offering fresh perspectives on metaphysical traditions in his books, papers, and articles, which include The Modern Alchemist, ESP induction through forms of self-hypnosis, a holographic concept of reality, and many, many more books. And he has
Well, that's what we're doing, Carrie. We're all across the country, different schools. Last week, I did one with a homeschool kids asking questions. They wanted to know how gravity works. Talked about how
I bet you're really good. I bet kids love you.
Well, it's
okay. God, I know we're live now. We're actually going live right now. It's crazy. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm actually. This is kind of crazy. Let me see if I got. Okay, we're supposed to be looking at the desktop. I think we are. Okay, just hold on 1 second. I need my other computer. You're so crazy. You have me distracted.
Look at that cat. Jesus.
Yeah, this is my Norwegian forest cat. My Norwegian forest lion, and he's actually. He wants to be on the radio, so he always cries and makes all kind of noise. People think I don't feed him. I feed him. He's too fat, as a matter of fact. He's actually overweight.
He's like a Cheshire. You know, sit there with that smile and nothing else. So, yeah, put him on a white rug and have him smile. That ought to do it.
Yeah, no, he's all good. So I don't know if people are hearing this. It's crazy. You're not supposed to start a show like this, Richard.
You know, I really appreciated you when you came to the Reno thing. That was very neat to meet you that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was fun. We had a good time there.
Yeah.
Other than the time when they actually went after us that day.
Wasn't that... You mean at the ground?
Yeah.
That was the strangest experience.
It was, actually.
Talking about that, because the missing time? That's really kind of crazy. I'm not kidding. We had to show up at Sundance bookstore or something like that, and I had to drive through traffic, hallucinating like crazy when I came out of that building.
Well, there you go. Yeah, something strange was going on during that interview, no doubt about it. For what it's worth, for people that are listening.
You like conspiracy and the creepy part of it.
Oh yeah.
You throw your hair and you throw your hair back like that. You do it. Thing like that. Yes, just like that.
Yeah.
That's Carrie Cassidy.
No, it's like, my attitude is make my day. That's it. That's my attitude. All right. So, Okay, we have the wow, the Magus to end all Maguses in the good way. With us tonight, Richard Allen Miller. This is Carrie Cassidy. We're not supposed to start an interview quite so crazily, but hopefully you guys can hear us. And I think it looks like from the chat that we've got people listening, so that's all good. I have your bio on the screen for the people that it says you're born in 1944. Is that actually true?
Yeah, I was born in 44. I'm
Okay.
a Pisces.
Okay, now
Actually, if I had been born 2 hours later, my name would have been Patrick Aloysius. I was born on the 16th, just before St. Patrick's Day.
why would you be called Patrick?
St. Patrick's Day.